Hey, here in the United States. So we have a jam-packed podcast for you today. Three or four segments. You'll notice by the title, Is the Future of Industry Digital? I'm going to be going over some couple of posts from LinkedIn earlier in this week that I thought were fairly fascinating. I've got some bunch of announcements to go over, and then we'll get into the discussion. But I want to start with Election Day. Just real quick. As you can see, I voted this morning. If you guys got any questions that you want me to answer, go ahead and put them in the chat. As a quick reminder, I don't see the chat. I only see the stuff that Josh puts up on the overlay. So unless a question pops up on the overlay, I don't actually see it unless I expand my screen out and look at the individual chat. It's to keep me from getting distracted. I want to talk about the election. I got a couple of messages, DMs, and Twitter today. People, for whatever reason, people want to know, it's very interesting. I have found some of the things that people want to know about me, like questions that people ask. So like my politics, right? I'm a very middle of the road guy. So obviously, I think if you talk to me, you'd know I'm a very middle of the road guy. But an interesting factoid my dad told me when I was a kid. Remember when I was registering to vote and I had to pick a political party? My father said, register Republican and then vote your conscience. And that stuck with me. I'm 48. That was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, he said that. He said, register Republican and vote your conscience. So I am a registered Republican. But in most elections, I vote for both, actually, libertarians, Republicans, and Democrats. In the last two presidential elections, I supported the libertarian candidate, Joe Jorgensen, in the last election. I believe in the power of people. I have a huge faith in people. I love people who have different ideas than I do. One of the things I talk with my kids about all the time is like the importance of the best ideas must win, not just in politics, but in everything, like in work. And we talk about this in Industry 4.0 all the time, that the best ideas must win. I am a huge free speech advocate, and I'm big on liberty, on the liberty of the individual. I believe that in history, collectivism has actually never works. And always leads to despotism. So I'm a huge fan of the individual, which leads me to this other little quick thing. I was reading on Twitter this morning. I think somebody wrote this post about if you read what people talk about Elon Musk, what they say about Elon Musk on Twitter, that does not comport with the Elon Musk that I know. In fact, let me I'll bring it up real quick. So I think it was Whole Mars Catalog. He said, the Elon Musk I see people talking about on Twitter isn't the one I know. It's not the one I've talked to and sat down with. Instead, they've come up with some cartoon caricature of a comic book supervillain, and they believe it's real. It's amazing to see people so divorced from reality. I agree 100%. My response was, Elon's a visionary. He's a pragmatist. He's mission driven. He personifies the statement, don't fight theoretical battles, win the results war. He is one of the good guys, and he's from the future. One of the things I love about Elon Musk is that he cares about the best ideas winning. And honestly, it's probably the only thing he cares about. This is why I believe that all voices have to be at the table. My kids are pretty conservative kids, and we'll be driving around, in the car, and they'll be bashing Democrats or something at some point. And I'll say, there's a lot of great progressive ideas. It's not like, progressives are bad people or whatever. There's a lot of great ideas. Just because their party lacks leadership doesn't mean they're wrong. I want those ideas at the table, but I certainly don't want, any one party to have complete and total power. So, and that really carries over into what we do in Industry 4.0. When I did a post the other day about one of the biggest things that we have to, one of the unspoken challenges, the thing we don't talk about, the nasty little truth we don't talk about all the time, is just how much politics, internal politics, plays into success or failure in digital transformation. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is a podcast. Eric Kimberling, who you remember I was on his podcast not too long ago. He did a podcast today, Why Digital Transformation Failures Are Increasing, a lawyer's perspective. And we're going to talk about that. He interviewed a software attorney as to why they're failing. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the future, but in later in the podcast. But one of the biggest challenges is political beings inside of organizations who are focused on their own self-interest over the best interest of the organization. What they do is they see what's best for them in the short term outweighs what's best for the organization in the long term, which is what's in their best interest long term. Right. So, and it's a interesting phenomenon that we all deal with. And when we talk about transformative leadership and disruptive leadership, we're talking about taking those people head on, taking them on head on. You know, you use disruptive leadership, use transformative leadership to solve their problems and win them over. Use disruptive leadership to get rid of them if they don't jump on the bus. Right. All right. Announcements. We'll talk about all this stuff later, but I just want to make sure I touch on that. So, announcements. Intellic is hiring. So the team has asked me to put this on. I want to talk a little bit about like the current state of employment in systems integration, right? So I'm going to take a couple of minutes on this. This is kind of important for those you integrators out there, or those of you who want to become an integrator, software developers. What's the current state of the job market? Okay. Let me say this from the beginning of the pandemic, it was very clear to us based on our analysis. So epidemiological, mortality, economic analysis, that the pandemic was going to become much more of an economic event than it was a pandemic. Be much more economic. The economy is going to get much worse, and inflation is going to be much worse. We are in a recession right now. Despite what some people are trying to say that we're not in a recession, we are in a recession. We have had multiple quarters of negative GDP growth. Just because you say that that's no longer the definition of a recession doesn't make it so. Okay, we are in a recession. We have runaway inflation, 8% or greater, month over month. Last year we had to do a really large cost of living raise for our employees. We had to increase our billable rate a lot. I think our billable rate had to go up something like 20%, 25%, something like that. Last year, it's going to have to go up that much, at least again this year. All of that's going to get passed on to our customers. Eventually, they're going to run out of capital. The liquidity markets are drying up because interest rates, the cost of borrowing money is going up and up and up to try and cool off the economy. So it's sort of a perfect storm of what's happening right now. But one of the interesting things is because of inflation and because of demand in our market, wages are going up significantly for engineers and software developers, but that's going to be short-lived, right? So let's say I'm an engineer who is looking for a position, right? I'm not going to try and if I want to play the long game, if I'm going to play the short game, I'm going to try and get as much money as I possibly can right now. And I'm going to ask them to take the money that they would normally put in benefits and put them in my salary. And I'll take as high a salary as I could possibly get, but crappy benefits. That's what, if I was playing the short game, say I want to go somewhere for say 6 to 12 months or something. If I'm playing the long game, then I'm going to be looking for a lower salary and higher quality benefits. So offset, and for those of you that are not in business, like if you're an engineer, I make the comment all the time that you need to know exactly how much you cost and exactly how much revenue you generate. Your cost is not your salary. I mean, like for example, an engineer here who makes $125,000 a year is going to cost close to $200,000. Okay, now and I would say the average engineer who costs something like $125,000 plus benefits and taxes and everything is going to cost maybe $180,000. But we have an engineer here or something like that, but they basically cost $200,000 instead of $180,000, even though their salary is $125,000. So that means that engineer has to generate $600,000 in revenue for us to justify hiring them. So they have to generate $600,000 by themselves to justify that. Okay. If you're out there in the job market, you need to understand what your actual cost is, not what your salary is, but what the total spend is on you. Right now, you have really young engineers, and I'm going to give some tough love here to some engineers out there. If you have less than 2 years of job experience, and you want something like, say, $140,000 a year, you're fucking insane. I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you haven't earned that. You have no experience. Just because you have an education and you had a job where you did a project, that doesn't make you worth $140,000 a year. And really what it boils down to is this. Are you the type of engineer? This is a really important thing here. If you're the type of engineer who provides value to other people around you to make them better, you're worth way more. If you're the type of engineer who requires a lot more energy from other engineers around you, that is a lot more support, a lot more resources to support you, then you're worth less in the market, in the open market. Okay. And you need to be asking those questions, right? Am I the type of person who needs a lot of support, or am I the type of person who can support a lot of other people? And that's what we call direct and indirect value. Direct value is how much you can actually bill as an engineer, and indirect value is the impact you have on other people's ability to bill. Okay. And it doesn't matter what market, say you work for the end user, it's the same thing. If I'm an engineer in an engineering department for a manufacturer, I am more valuable if I am making other people better at their job. And I am less valuable if I'm having to take resources from other people so that I can do my job. Okay. And the net is I require more support than I can give. One of the things I discovered is a lot of people don't understand that. We use this example. Are you the type of person that I can throw a stack of papers in front of? Just a big stack. Here's a bunch of printed emails, functional specification, a couple of contact numbers, and can you turn that into a finished project? That's the most valuable senior engineer. The one who could take a stack of papers and nothing else, and a couple of contact, a couple of phone numbers, a couple of emails, email addresses, a stack of communications, a functional specification, a statement of work, and turn that into a finished job. That's a really small percentage of the people out there in the market. It really is. What we try to do at Intellic is, rather than try to build our teams out of Intellic and 4.0, try to build our teams out of people who can take the stacks of paper. What we're looking for is the people who can take select sheets of paper in that stack and deliver, and then put them on a team of people who are more than the sum of their parts, who, when we take all those pieces of paper that they can deliver on, it's the full stack. Okay. That's the approach we take. Okay. So, if you're interested and that sounds interesting to you, then you should, reach out to us. Right now I think we're looking to add 5 resources, a couple of seniors, a couple of mid-levels, and a junior. And then I think we're also adding another business development person, if I'm not mistaken. What is a senior? A senior is the person who can take a stack and deliver a finished project. A mid-level is somebody who can take a couple of sheets of paper in that stack and deliver a finished functional capability. And they can work with a team who's delivering the other pieces of paper. And the junior is the person who follows orders and learns and does the bullshit stuff. Okay. And learns, spends 2 years learning, making mistakes and recovering quickly. If that's interesting to you, you can, we're going to do this thing. You can text me directly on we're actually going to give you guys my work cell number. And you will, if you do text it, you will get me. It is my phone and it's the one I carry. You can text my work cell. Also, if you have any questions that you want me to answer directly and I have the time, I can answer them quickly. You can do that as well. I know you guys do this through LinkedIn and Twitter, and I get a lot of it. But we're now giving my work cell. So I expect to hear my phone exploding over there here in a couple of minutes. So, all right, with that, reminder, mentorship call this Friday. MES Bootcamp session number 5 is this Saturday. So we got 2 more to go, and then we'll be all done with the first MES Bootcamp. We'll be doing an advanced MES Bootcamp right after the first of the year. We're working on the curriculum right now. I'll be adding a bunch of advanced features. I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Knepper. So you guys may remember Jeff Knepper was I think he was the director of marketing and business development for Canary. I think that was his actual job. Maybe he was an executive vice president. He was high up in the company. He was responsible for most of the growth that you saw at Canary over the last 5 years or so. Jeff is a personal friend, great human being. I'm actually going to use Jeff he doesn't know I'm doing this. I didn't tell him I was actually giving him the shout out. But Jeff announced last week this. Very excited to announce my new role as a partner at Flow Software. So you guys will know Flow is one of our favorite pieces of software. They're based out of South Africa. They're coming here to the United States. Knepper has partnered with their team. Okay. And he's actually a partner with the organization here in the United States, I think, or maybe the global organization as well. This is exciting and bittersweet as I dearly love Canary, and I will always be indebted to Gary Stern and Ed Stern, as well as the entire Canary family, for giving me such an incredible opportunity 6 years ago. Congratulations to Ken Wyant on his new role as the Director of Business Solutions. He's the perfect fit for Canary's continued growth. So for the stuff that you were using Jeff Knepper for, you're now going to be using Ken Wyant at Canary, as well as Sean Ebersol. They'll basically be, they're the guys who will answer the questions that Jeff would have normally have answered. He said that I'm excited to remain partnered with Alan Ray and facilitate Integrate Live as this community continues to grow. And thank you to Graham Welton, Bram Venter, and David Greaves for your confidence and partnership at Flow. I'm excited to get started and can't wait to work with this incredible team you've gathered. Let's go. I want to say a couple of things. Congratulations to Jeff. I think this is a outstanding move. I've known that it was kind of in the works for a while. I want to use this announcement as an example to kind of drive home my position on the quiet quitting thing. Jeff had this in his head for it took a while to make this happen. Year and a half, whatever it was. It takes a while to make a big move like this, to go from being a trusted leader for one software organization to become now a partner with another software organization. You got to hire your replacement at your previous company, all this kind of stuff. From the time that Jeff kind of knew, hey, this is something I might do, I'm kind of interested in doing it. From that moment until he made this announcement, which was a long time. I don't know exactly how long it was, year and a half, whatever. Jeff gave 110% to Canary Labs. And if you look at the growth at Canary over that period, the numbers bear that out. Jeff knew he was making a jump to do his own thing, to become a partner and have an ownership stake in the company. And yet for the next 12 to 18 months or whatever it was, he gave fucking everything he had to the employer he had, to the company that gave him his shot, that helped him build his reputation in the industry. He gave him everything. He didn't act his wage or whatever it was. When I meet someone like Jeff, and Jeff and I have been friends now 5 years, give or take. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but we've been friends a while, and I have immense amount of respect for Knepper. He doesn't know I'm doing this. He has no idea. He's probably gonna be shocked I'm even mentioning him. Jeff is a stand-up guy. He's a values-based guy. He's a mission-based guy. I don't need to pick apart Jeff's arguments when he tells me something. When Jeff gives me a position, or he tells me something about a piece of software he wants me to test out, I can trust it because I know the man he is. Right? And the way he conducted himself over the last year and a half is a testament to that man. So kudos to you, my brother. I love you with all my heart. On the tail end of that, we got an email this morning, and we got permission to announce this. Canary reached out to us because they have announced that they're doing new pricing starting in 2023. And I'm just going to go ahead and read the email that they sent out internally to their partners. I hope you guys are doing well. I wanted to make you aware of the new pricing structure we're moving to in 2023. So the Canary Labs historian. The idea is to follow more closely with the Ignition model of offering unlimited clients with every Canary historian. So one of the things that you guys may have known was that you would be limited to the number of clients you could open using like Axiom or any of the UI tools based on the licenses that you had. Okay. They're changing that. We are also moving to a tiered or package pricing solution. So as you will see in the attached price list, there are 6 different tag level packages, and each package comes with an unlimited number of Axiom and Excel add-in clients. This is a big announcement. This is a big deal. There's an option to add the ODBC connector and extra tags in 1,000 tag increments to any of these packages. So with the new pricing, you're going to get unlimited Axiom clients. That's the UI. That would be the equivalent of in Ignition, how we get unlimited vision clients or unlimited perspective clients running in a project. That's an unlimited number of users connected to the server at any given time through the UI. That didn't used to be the case with Canary. It will be with this new pricing for 2023. Also, the cloud pricing session lists quarterly costs for a Canary historian hosted on a standalone Azure server in a US region. We do not have any reselling opportunities for our partners if they have a customer interested in this option, however. Therefore, we recommend our partners maintain their own cloud platforms. Okay. Let me say this. This is a big announcement. Okay, for Canary. I mean, the value of Canary just went up drastically in terms of the utility. It's still the same, but the value, what you get for your money, just went up drastically. Okay. By the way, Canary, this is unsponsored. Canary didn't ask us to do this. I read this email. I messaged Sean and said, "Hey, dude, I'd like to announce this on the podcast." He said, "Great, do it." So it's totally unsponsored. I don't have a horse in this race. This is a big deal. So if you're looking to do Canary, the big advantage going forward now is you'll have an unlimited number of Axiom clients that can connect to your historian. So now you won't be limited by the number of users who can access your historical data through Axiom at any given time. Okay. All right, let's talk about this. Let's get into the technical stuff. Josh, is there anything I need to answer real quick? If there is, just throw it up there. All right. Eric Kimberling, you guys remember, I was on his podcast a couple months ago. And he did a podcast this morning at 9:00. You can check this out on LinkedIn. It's why digital transformation failures are increasing, a lawyer's perspective. Okay. And I'll just read what he wrote here. Why digital transformation failures are increasing, or lawyer's perspective. With digital transformation and ERP implementation failures increasing at a rapid rate, it is important to dissect the root causes of implementation challenges. So from a lawyer's perspective, it's vendor-friendly contracts, forced cloud migrations, faulty system integrator assumptions, and other factors that create an uneven playing field that can favor the vendors rather than their customers. In this live Q&A discussion, Marcus Harris from Taft Law will provide a software attorney's perspective on what organizations should do to avoid these problems. We'll discuss the things you need to know to mitigate risk and establish a foundation for success when planning a digital transformation for 2023. Highly recommend you guys watch this. Okay. I'm going to give my comments here. Marcus's perspective here, the attorney here, is from the digital thread approach to solving problems. Okay, so everything he's going to be commenting about is, think Rockwell Connected Enterprise, right? All of the reasons he says digital transformation is failing, it's increasing. The rates are increasing. It's vendor-friendly contracts, forced cloud migrations, faulty system integrator assumptions, and other factors that create an uneven playing field that favor vendors rather than their customers. This is something I talk about all the time, right? You know, the values of your partners. The digital transformation only fails for 3 reasons. Okay. Every single digital transformation failure. By the way, 80% of organizations, 80% fail in their first attempt. That is, they get next to no value out of their first attempt at digitally transforming their organization. They have a big spend with little return. And it's for one of only three reasons: wrong strategy, wrong technology, wrong partners. So what I do want to say, I want to temper expectations with this podcast in that if what you do is believe that all you need are vendor-friendly agreement or customer-friendly agreements to get value out of digital transformation, and you don't have the right strategy, you're using the wrong technology, and you haven't picked the right partners, you're still going to fail. However, if you have the correct digital strategy, which is a mission statement for why you want to become a digital company, the mission statement through which everybody is working. Number two, you've picked the right technology, edge-driven, report by exception, lightweight, open architecture. You're not vendor locked in. Okay, you're going technology centric, not solution centric, and you're picking the right partners, agnostic integrators, agnostic consultants who are working with vendor specific integrators to make sure that the decisions being made are a function of the interest of the customer and not the interest of some vendor agreement. If you're doing those three things first, then go ahead and listen to this attorney. But if you're not doing those first things first, those three things first, then you're wasting your time. Okay. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and I'm actually probably going to shoot a video that's going to kind of comment on that podcast, which I loved, by the way. Hold on, let me check something here real quick. The opposite of quiet quitting. Congrats, Jeff. Yep. Thank you, Mario. Liam Doyle. Last week you mentioned that everyone is expendable. Elon Musk proved that last week when he fired a large proportion of his staff, possibly in violation of employment laws in many places. Yeah, Liam, so real quick on the, Elon did not violate any employment, labor laws. He offered 90 days of, so I mean, this is part of the problem. It's part of the miscommunication, right? It's misinformation. It's just people trying to attack Elon. You really think that Elon Musk is just like, fuck it, we're going to break all the labor laws? No, his lawyers, what he said was, how can we lay everybody off Friday? And they said, well, what you have to do is we're supposed to give them 60 days notice. So in certain, if we're over a certain number of employees and we're doing it last minute, we have to give them a certain amount of notice. All you have to do is offer them the pay that equals those days. That's what he did. He offered 90 days severance, which was 90 days, not 60 days, and then said, you're out on Friday. He didn't violate the labor laws. He's continuing to pay them. So it's just, they're not working on Friday. He offered 90 days of severance to those employees. He didn't violate any labor laws. Moreover, I mean, the company is underwater. I mean, it's and moreover, the courts forced them to buy it. So, how's everyone doing today? Why doesn't everyone feel that way? Richard Benamy, Richard Benamy said, why doesn't everyone feel that way? What's that question really in relation to, Richard Benamy? I'd love to answer it. And yes, Liam, everyone is expendable. Education isn't much without experience. Benjamin, education is nothing without experience. I totally agree. Yeah, I'll tell you a little story. I put myself through college. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and when I got my first degree, I threw my own graduation party, my own college graduation party. And my dad, this is before I got my first real job, and my father came to my graduation party, and I remember I'm sitting in a fold-out chair in the yard, and I'm like drinking a beer, and got all these people there. My dad walked up, and he was misty-eyed and tears in his eyes, just like when I graduated from high school, and my dad cried at my graduation. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, I'm really proud of you, but nothing you learned in school makes a bit of difference in the real world. Your education, your real education starts today. That's what he said. And you know what? He was fucking right. I that advice my father gave me was absolutely invaluable. Like when I went and got the job in the salt mine, I was a college graduate working with a bunch of working class guys who'd only gone to high school or maybe gone to tech school, vocational school. And most of the other college graduates that were there, most of the folks that had engineering degrees and stuff, they acted like they knew they were the smart ones, like that they knew best. And they had no experience. You know, they were working with guys who had 20, 30 years experience, guys and gals who had 20, 30 years experience trying ideas, having them fail, pivoting, trying a new idea. And these young guys come in and they try to propose something that has failed in the past that these people know is going to fail. And they still try to push it through and ignore the people with all the experience. Those guys eventually get chewed up and spit out. Those college guys that come in who think they know everything, they're brilliant. They end up getting chewed up and spit out. It's the college educated folks who latch on to those with the most experience and learn from the people who have the most experience. That's the biggest difference. Like even Jeff Rankinen on here will tell you, like when he's teaching automation at Penn Tech, the biggest challenge is that these kids aren't learning in the manufacturing environment. So there's so many things about manufacturing that they're not learning. They're learning the automation component, but there's all these other elements that they're not learning at the same time that you only get through experience. I could tell you this, in this day and age, you don't need to go to college for your education. You go to college for your confidence. And I tell my kids all have to have college degrees. I had 3 of them graduate this last spring. But I told them, you're not going to college to get a degree and get educated. You're going to college to achieve the first thing you will ever achieve on your own. College is where you develop your confidence. You learn critical thinking skills and you learn how to write, but you don't really, today you can get educated online for free. You don't have to go to school. And this is the truth. You don't have to go to school to become educated, but you do need to develop confidence through achievement. And athletics is a good way to do that. But going to college and getting your degree when you don't feel like getting it, or going into the military and getting through basic training and then getting through tech school and putting in 4 years when you hate your job that whole time, that's invaluable because those are achievements that no one else gets to take credit for. Like when you're a kid and you're 17, 18, 19 years old, when you graduate from high school, big fucking deal. Idiots graduate from high school every day. That's not an accomplishment. Okay. Moreover, your parents get to take credit for half of it, right? They're the ones who housed you, fed you, they're, told you to do your homework, reviewed your presentation before you went to school, called your teacher and negotiated for that better grade. Fuck, I'm not going to lie. I invest money in my kids' schools because it gets us influence, right? And I see it, every year, I don't do the investment to get the influence. I do the investment to support other kids, but it gets us influence. And there are a lot of parents that do that stuff. But when you're in college and you're going through and getting your education for the first, and you're a young kid who's learning how to get out of bed without somebody waking you up and get to class and plan your time, you're doing that on your own. You're doing that. But just because you got that education doesn't make you, super. You should come out of college going, my education starts today. And that was a invaluable lesson that my father taught me. I can tell you that right now. It absolutely invaluable. All right, let's talk about the future of industry isn't digital. So this is a little bit controversial. I got a bunch of heat behind the scenes for my post here. You guys can check this out on LinkedIn. I think Josh will put the link in or whatever. But Nathan Linder, who is the CEO of Tulip, he's one of the founders, chairman at Tulip. He did a post on his LinkedIn. And that post was the future of industry isn't digital. Okay. He says, our new #fast company is focused on people, augmentation over pure automation. And then you can read this article, and they have him and his partner, they have a book coming out, or maybe it did come out already. And it's, the point of view, the future of industry isn't digital. Okay. And in a nutshell, what he says is that the future of industry is human. Okay. That's what he says. I found his post to be incredibly misleading, and dangerous for the future of some manufacturers. If they read this and they go, oh, our focus only needs to be over here. So here was my response. Some of you guys may have read it, but I wrote, there are some points in this post that I legitimately agree with. For example, digital transformation happens at the intersection of bottom-up improvement and top-down vision and oversight. Digital transformation starts with unlocking potential on the plant floor. That's the human element. Tapping into the potential of people. Digital transformation is more than automation. It's about augmenting people, although I couldn't hate this term more. I agree with those things that Nathan said. However, if organizations chart their digital transformation journeys based on the premise that the future of industry isn't digital, quote unquote, it's human, then they're going to drive off a cliff. Spoiler alert, the future of industry is digital and human. Okay. There's the problems with this article. There is no mention of digital strategy. There's no mention of digital architecture, digital supply chain. There's no mention that the future of industry are organizations built around digital data being their primary commodity, driving the development of products that get better after the customer buys them. There's no mention of hub and spoke supply chain, monitored with machine learning, managed by artificial intelligence, and implemented on a common infrastructure across verticals, horizontals, business units, and markets. This piece has some valid points, but it is missing the key points that organizations must know. The future of industry is absolutely digital, top to bottom, left to right. If you think otherwise, you're driving off a cliff. Start with your digital strategy. Think mission statement for why you want to be a digital company. And then perhaps adopt the sentiments in this piece for your workforce pillar. Then move on to your architecture, your minimum technical requirements, and then you enable. But for goodness sake, please understand that the future of industry is digital, full stop. And this is not a semantic argument, by the way. Someone could make the argument, oh, he's just using wordplay. No, he's not. He is absolutely saying the future of industry isn't digital, and that digital isn't a key component of the future of industry. All manufacturing facilities, all warehouses will all be hubs in the same infrastructure. That's the future. Right now, every Tesla on the road is a smart node in a digital ecosystem, one that includes all of the suppliers that supply the Tesla with the materials they use to manufacture those cars. One common digital infrastructure. Tesla improves their vehicles at the speed of light. I got another software update last night. My regenerative braking is more efficient. My battery life went up. That happened last night. That's why no one can compete with Tesla. I mean, Hyundai, Volkswagen, they're close. Hyundai is your sleeper, by the way. I want to point out one quick comment here. I think it's this guy, Dr. Ng, Javier Palafox Alberon. He's an Industry 4.0 consultant, mentor, and extensionist, centered around factory technology. And this is what he commented. I thought it was a very insightful comment on what Nathan had posted. And he said, I bought their book. They are clearly brilliant people, and I totally agree in their focus on how frontline workers are experts in their own processes. So do I. The smartest person in your organization is on the plant floor. Allowing them to write their own apps has sense initially. Okay. However, I don't know how experienced they are in the day-to-day of shop floor operations. Here's a spoiler. They're not. Okay. Developing no code applications will allow to have quick wins initially, but these will hit a glass ceiling without a proper SDLC cycle and data governance. Absolutely. Why? Because what's the ultimate goal? You start out by solving the problems that human beings identify with their naked eye, based on patterns they can see with the naked eye. But where does the real value come from? Like the long-term value, the sustainable value? It's using machine learning for what it's good at. And machine learning finds patterns and data we can't see in the naked eye. Correlations and relationships and causations that we cannot see with the naked eye. So if all we're going to do is use no-code apps on the plant floor to try and solve very complex, layered business problems, we won't ever solve them. One of the things that's missing in Nathan's argument is the importance of strategy, architecture, and technology. In fact, it just doesn't exist there. Okay. I found this incredibly disheartening reading this. And I took a bunch of shit. Hey, these are the guys from Tulip. All these people invested all this money, yada, yada, yada. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Right? I'd love to have Nathan come on here and clarify. And by the way, I love Tulip. Absolutely love Tulip's platform. Love them, but not cool. How can this statement connect to the Tulip framework? Is this framework different from other frameworks? Let me see here. How can this statement connect to the Tulip framework? Is this framework different from other frameworks? It's not different. Tulip is still Tulip is an IIoT platform based in the cloud. It has a standard software stack, so backend, API, UI. The big difference with Tulip is the baked-in no-code development capabilities. So dragging an object and dropping it on a screen like no-code development, and all the connectors. That's the big thing. They have there's a big stack to the left of their software stack that's like connector based, and it's all IIoT stuff. Right? So it's OPC, it's SQL, but then it's all the IIoT protocols as well, like MQTT. I'm a big fan of Tulip. I really am. I like it a lot. Liam Doyle, the future of industry is certainly digital. However, instead of simply taking a purely technocentric approach to organizations, we should take a socio-technical approach. I agree. What I would say is that you should take neither all one nor all the other. This is a interesting subject here, and we'll get into the OEE thing here in a second. You'll hear me talk about digital thread quite a bit, and why it doesn't work as the foundation of an organization's Industry 4.0 architecture. So what is digital thread? Real quick. The best way to describe it, like if you're an automation person, Plant PAX, so Plant Packs from Rockwell Automation, that's digital thread, right? So if I buy Plant Packs and I'm using Factory Talk with PTC ThingWorks or Factory Talk Innovation Suite and then Azure Cloud, okay? They're the UDTs and the add-on instructions with my PAX objects that have my faceplates for Factory Talk View, and then my objects for Factory Talk MES, and then my objects for Innovation Suite, right? My event frames in the Historian and my asset frames in the Historian. They all line up. They're the same object. They're one thread, right? The AOI generates UDTs. That's an object. Say it's a triangle. I have a triangle faceplate in Factory Talk View that maps directly to it. I have a triangle faceplate in FactoryTalk MES that maps to it. I have a triangle faceplate, or that's an event frame or an asset frame inside of FactoryTalk Historian, which is OSI Pi, which maps right to it. And then I have thing. I have a thing in FactoryTalk Innovation Suite, which is PTC ThingWorks, that is the shape of a triangle, right? And then I have my IoT Hub template in the cloud, in Azure Cloud, that maps to it. That's a thread, right? There's the reason that is not a technological infrastructure across an entire organization is because it is monolithic. Imagine that there are boundaries around that the channel through which that thread passes up the organization. And on the other side of the boundary is all the things that are not Rockwell. It's not Rockwell software, and it's not Rockwell partner software. I haven't paid Rockwell to play inside the boundaries. Okay. No organization is 100% Rockwell Automation. And no organization is 100% Siemens, and no organization is 100% Emerson. Those are solution stacks. Okay. There is a place for plant packs, but it is not the centerpiece of your digital infrastructure. Okay. There's a place where you can leverage those threads for specific use cases. Okay. But it's not the centerpiece of your organization. It's not the single source of truth for all data and information in your organization. I was just reading about a big announcement. Rockwell won a really large Hyundai contract, or I thought, or whatever. And I thought, interesting play on Hyundai's part. And they should hire somebody to show them where all the gaps are. But hopefully not me. Liam Doyle, the systems we develop and use within organizations include humans as well as technologies. Too many systems development projects fail by not considering the human element. Agreed. And it's really human knowledge. Lee Taylor, I've never been truly successful in building a solution without thinking of the human. I've seen plenty trying to ignore the human, failing miserably, though. Agreed. And in fact, what we say is that digital transformation has to start with unlocking potential on the plant floor. And you unlock potential through people. But if you don't do that through strategy, architecture, and technology, common strategy, architecture, or technology, what you will get is there's a great video. Josh, and correct me if I'm wrong if I get it wrong, but there's a great video online. It's like the Democratic Socialist Convention. It was like the national convention for the Democratic Socialist Party in the United States. Okay, you should look this up. And in that, there's no common strategy or architecture, or there's no foundation through which all the people in that conference are communicating with one another. And so it just becomes a jumbled mess of disorganized communications in this huge conference center. And absolutely nothing gets accomplished. In fact, I don't think they ever actually get the agenda approved. They spend hours and hours and hours trying to get the agenda approved, and they can't get it approved. That is a metaphor for people all trying to solve their own problems, but not doing it under a common strategy, a common technology, or a common architecture. It is a totally appropriate metaphor. That's a room full of data silos, all trying to yell at one another in their own native language that no one can understand. I mean, it's very comical. Okay. David, digital strategy and architecture become expected and invisible within 10 to 20 years. Digital human remains visible, and so is the future of industry. That's the argument, correct? All right. Digital strategy and architecture become expected and invisible within 10 to 20 years. Digital human remains visible, and so is the future of industry. That's the argument. Correct. Sort of their argument. Think of this. Let me explain it this way. Imagine the future of industry is an island. It's on an island in the middle of the ocean. Okay. And right now, the legacy organizations are operating on the mainland. Okay. And in order for them to be part of the future of industry, they have to chart a path that gets them safely to the island. And once they're on the island, they can just allow the organization to grow organically. Okay? Digitally. The way to go from the mainland to that island in the middle of the ocean is digital strategy, architecture, and technology. And drawing an error vector, a vector that puts you on a course that lands you on that island. What Nathan is missing in his argument is that piece. He's talking about what happens on the island. He's not talking about how you get there. That's what's missing. And what organizations need to know is how to get from where I am right now to where I'm supposed to go. Right? And that's where the digital transformation maturity assessment comes in. That's where all of these strategies, these architectures we've designed are all centered around taking organizations that are disparate, data siloed, disconnected, uncollected, unanalyzed, okay, highly political, not on a common strategy, no architecture, a million different technologies, and pushing all that together into a common strategy, architecture, and technology that's going to get them to the island that is the future. Okay. All right. Socio-technological approach equals strategy plus architecture plus technology plus human. Agreed. Let me make no mistake. My argument is the future of industry is digital and human. I want to talk about real quick. I want to drive home a point, and then we'll talk about the OEE thing real quick. Cirrus Link announced in September the release of the Azure IoT Bridge. Okay, and I talked about this briefly. I'm going to talk about it again here. There are two major announcements that have come out in the last few months that have fundamentally changed what's going to happen in 2023 as it relates to a lot of people's Industry 4.0 digital strategy. And that is the announcement of the Azure IoT Bridge from Cirrus Link, which is it's a application that you can get from the Azure store that allows you to connect IoT Bridge to an Ignition infrastructure and vice versa. And it basically gives us the ability, the real game changer piece here is the ability for that application to consume templates over SparkPlug-B, which are data types in Ignition, into Azure IoT Hub natively as Azure IoT Hub templates. And if I make changes to the Hub template in Azure, it will propagate and be consumed by Ignition through that connector. So now what we have is a two-way connection for the production and consumption of data types as templates from Ignition to Azure and back, Azure IoT Hub and back. That is a huge fucking deal. Because what it gives you is now I can take the data points from my tags inside of Ignition and using the Azure IoT Bridge over MQTT, SparkPlug-B, I can natively stream that data into time series insight. This is a big one for us, is I can natively stream and historize that data into time series insights with no transformation, no modification. Just time. I mean, the time series insights one is a huge fucking deal to start with. Okay. The second thing is the announcement of Ignition Cloud, which will be available on both AWS and Azure with Ignition, where you're going to be able to bill through AWS or Azure stores. Okay, and they're native. They're not ports. These are native instances of Ignition Cloud, of Ignition. Okay, that's a big deal. Huge deal. And I really cannot stress the significance. We are going to do in either mentorship or mastermind. I think we're probably going to do it in a mastermind session. We're going to do this integration. And last week, I want to put something in perspective here. Our time management system here at Intellic Integration, so on the engineering side, I was having a meeting with my team, okay, and with my executive leadership team. We're reviewing business systems, and we're getting ready to expand our unified namespace, our business's unified namespace, to incorporate some data that we don't currently integrate, okay, and it comes from our CRM. And the other day, I wanted to start doing this development, and I just spun up a cloud. I spun up a server in the cloud. I installed Ignition, and I connected Ignition to our unified namespace that's running in an EMQX broker. And within that brand new platform, which, it took me 15 minutes to do this, I had the entire structure of our business, who are, the full unified namespace. What was the last, what are the utilization rates for every engineer? How many billable hours are remaining on every individual project? What are the open POs? What's the open orders total? What do we have in outstanding invoicing? I had every data point at my fingertips in 15 minutes without having to go into multiple systems. Okay. We had this conversation about, hey, in our business systems meeting, we were talking about the things that we want to pull from the CRM that we don't currently integrate from the CRM, because our license with our CRM isn't, it's not the professional license, so we don't have the API. But now we've upgraded, and we're going to go ahead and pull from this REST API into the namespace. But we have a solution that I built in 2015, 14, something like that. Our time management system, which is how it's how we manage all of our projects, and it's how we manage all of our time entries for our engineers. And it's all built in Ignition. Like the whole thing, like the whole centerpiece of our business is built in Ignition, right? And I remember we were in the strategy session. I was listing all the business systems that we have on a slide, and I was like, "What are we use Trello for this, we use Smartsheet for that, we use Azure DevOps for this, and blah 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 blah." And I remember looking at this slide and going, "What's amazing is that no other organization that I know of, no other systems integrator, has all the information that's in all these various systems unified right there on that screen like that. Like all in just one place." And I was thinking, if I showed this to manufacturers, they would understand what we're talking about when it comes to a UNS. Which maybe I will do, actually, or at least show the mastermind folks. All right, last thing I want to talk about is this OEE thing. So there was a post the other day. I shot the video. OEE is powerful and important. And why did I shoot that? And it was because this guy Dave McGowan on LinkedIn, he posted an article about the top 15 smart factory KPIs, and the number one KPI was OEE. So there was a list of 15 KPIs that you should be using to measure the success of your smart factory strategy, and OEE was number one. And the reason I ended up seeing this was because Rick Bellotta had commented on it, and he had said, "Well, that's anybody with a brain knows OEE is not the most important KPI to measure smart factory strategy, right?" So I looked at it. Like here are the 15 KPIs that this IoT Analytics said are the 15 most important KPIs for measuring the success of your smart factory strategy. Okay, so increase in overall equipment effectiveness is number one. Increase in labor efficiency. Increase in output. decrease in costs, increase in quality, increase in supply chain resiliency, increase in revenue, increase in on-time delivery, decrease in reported safety incidents, increase in operational resiliency, increase in customer satisfaction, decrease of waste, increase in ROE, ROCE, increase in market share, market penetration, and a decrease in inventory levels. Okay. And I remember looking at this and thinking, how the hell is OEE at the top of that list? I mean, most of these on here, I don't use, I wouldn't use as KPIs for, is our strategy working? Okay. And that's what he wrote in his post. But this is what I wrote about OEE. And I in this other video, I drove home this point of why OEE matters. But this is what I said about OEE, just this top part. I'm a huge fan of OEE as a concept and its use as a KPI for operational analysis when implemented correctly. Do I agree that it's the top metric for measuring the success of a smart factory strategy? Not a chance. It's not even in the top 5. I'd argue it doesn't belong in the top 15 list because OEE doesn't tell you at all how effective your smart factory strategy is, because OEE is an operational strategy, not a smart factory strategy. Okay. But I want to talk about the OEE piece. So many people are haters on OEE. And the reason why is because just like with digital transformation, OEE is implemented incorrectly more times than not. And everyone watching this knows it to be true. All the MES folks on here, anyone who's ever gone and evaluated an existing manufacturing execution system on a plant floor, or maybe a paper version or some code somebody wrote in a PLC to calculate OEE, more times than not, it's done wrong. Either capturing the events wrong, they're capturing too many of them manually, they're doing the calculation wrong, they're using the wrong rates, they're manipulating downtime, so both planned and unplanned downtime. They're giving people the power to manipulate the output for their own self-interest. OEE, like digital transformation, is implemented incorrectly more times than not. Digital transformation doesn't fail. Digital transformation initiatives do. OEE doesn't fail. OEE initiatives do. And our mindset has to change. The focus when it comes to digital transformation or deploying a digital MES has to start from what our strategy is. Okay. It has to be focused on the best ideas winning. The best ideas have to come from accurate data. Okay. All right. I'm a little bit over. Sorry about that. Hopefully I touched on everything. There's a couple things I'm going to be sending out to those who are in the MES bootcamp. You guys will see that stuff tomorrow. Mentorship, I'll be sending out the announcement on Thursday what our topic's going to be. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you're in the United States, get out and vote, and I will see you